Thanks for clicking on to the Thursday edition of Vogan's European Outlook. It's going to be a very short video today because I need to head out to work for my night shift. So it's going to be pretty brief tonight. But tonight I want to look at very quickly at the some of the longer range stuff with regards to where we're sitting with regards to the month of February. And there's a lot of competing factors going on here. We've got, of course, a strong phase 3 Julian oscillation at the moment here. We've also got a negative EPO signal with a ridge over the North Pacific. So there is competing aspects along with factoring in the stratosphere and what's going on with the warming that's taking place at the moment and the influences that may have later down the road in the troposphere. But this is the ECMWF weeklies here, and you can see that we've got two main areas of high pressure through the next 7-day period here. So we've got that negative EPO signal with a La Nina base state reflection on the as well. So, like I say, very, very complex stuff that I'm doing a little bit of work on at the moment, especially in my nightly drive, listening to videos regarding in more detail some of these climatic drivers that have major influence. Of course, the strong MJO signal, what influence that's having on the planetary wave breaking and whatnot, what influence that may be having on the stratosphere. Of course, we've got 1, 2, possibly 3 waves of warming taking place that's essentially stretching and pushing the vortex into the North Atlantic. And of course, what influence may that have later down the road? My fear is that we have strong warming, from Asia towards North America, forces the polar vortex either into the North Atlantic or into northwestern Europe, but that enhances potentially the positive North Atlantic oscillation. You drive colder. We're going to see that in the North America. We've also got a La Nina ridge in the southeastern half of the United States. And so instead of having the plunge of polar air all the way deep into the south of the United States and the southeast, having that restricted because of that resistance of high pressure over the southeast may have a different outcome in terms of the storm track over the North Atlantic, the zonality and whatnot. There's modelling that is indicating a strong jet stream. There's a modelling that indicates a weak jet stream into week 1, week 2 of February here. So we've got a lot of competing factors at the moment. I said way back at the beginning of my winter forecast that the Pacific is going to be the main driver this year. EPO, WPO, MJO, without even considering the stratosphere. And we have done pretty well with regards to winter weather this year, if I'm being honest with you. We're probably going to wind up slightly above average in terms of the January temperature. Normally, for the British Isles, we had a colder than normal December. I think we're probably leaning average to slightly above average during week 1, possibly into week 2 of February. But of course, depending on what happens high up at 10 millibars and what sort of downward propagation we get, will determine the second half of February overall. But remember what I said, that this winter was likely to be average to above average in terms of temperature. I never had a cold winter for the entire 90-day period. So I want to just get that fact out there and re-emphasize the point. But this is the ECMWF weeklies. You can see here the strong ridge just to the west of the British Isles, but leaning in. So we've got less moisture. We've got a drier upcoming 7 days compared to what we've seen during the first half of the month. But notice as we play through this animation here, we start to lose somewhat of that ridge over the northwestern portion of the United States. Now, the weeklies indicate that we start to build a southern ridge here across the United States here, which is quite interesting. So, therefore, what we're seeing is we're seeing the ridge that was originally to the west of the British Isles sinking south, and we have got that trough further north here. But remember, this is off the weeklies here, off the ECMWF, and sometimes I think the modelling does not see properly what's going on high up within the atmosphere. Also, there can be a delay in seeing the Julian oscillation and what influences that could be having on the ridge trough positioning and amplification of the pattern, how flat it is, how meridional it is. But notice here that as we progress towards the period here, this is the 3rd to the 10th of February, and we have a very positive North Atlantic oscillation. Look, ridge to the south, ridge trough to the north, a free-flowing storm track, which looks as if it's aiming more towards the northern half of the British Isles. That would be a fairly mild look, according to the model anyway. And then you notice here that the trough deepens slightly to the west of the British Isles, but that is not a cold signal for either North America or indeed for Europe. Look at the ridge of high pressure over Europe. But look at this is quite interesting here. Look at the GFS. So this is of course the operational run, the latest run. There is multiple runs throughout the course of the day. So this is just an example of what the models are showing as opposed to what I think is going to happen. But this is rather interesting here. You notice here that we've got, of course, these ridges of high pressure building into the British Isles. We've got that strong negative EPO look with the big positive, over the North Pacific, extending into the Aleutians and Alaska. That then, of course, forces Arctic air south into the United States. We have got the strengthening of the jet stream in response to that. But what happens is quite interesting because if you notice here, as we progress from January into the month of February here, we've got systems that kind of ride to the north of the UK. So it looks as if that's a fairly mild affair. So this is, of course, the 500 millibar geopotential height anomaly chart here. Should have said that beforehand. Notice here, by the time we reach the 2nd, 3rd, 4th of February, we've got a strong build-up of pressure over the British Isles. But look at the negative here that we've got coming off North America. That deep negative pushing east forces the strengthening of this high. And watch what happens. It actually starts to build the strongest, anomaly here above normal anywhere in the northern hemisphere. And look at where it's positioning it. So this is Tuesday, the 7th of February. We've got a very strong area of high pressure over Scandinavia. We've got the negative over France. That, folks, would indicate that we start to see easterly winds coming in from a colder source here. So something, to take note of. Remember, I showed you this actually in yesterday's video, the potential of a Scandinavian block, pressure down upwards of 10-50 millibars, building over Scandinavia and allowing cold air in from the east. But we take this with a pinch of salt here. The modelings are struggling with the competing aspects of the MJO, the negative EPO, what's going on within the stratosphere, what's going on within the troposphere. And I want to look at that probably in a bit more detail tomorrow with regards to the troposphere here, because that is more important to an extent than what is going on within the stratosphere. Because the stratosphere is one thing, the tropospheric polar vortex is what is involved in our weather. But look at this here. Look at that there. If that was to materialize, things would get very, very interesting in the week 2 of February. That's for sure here. But watch what happens. Let's watch and see what takes place, because at the end of the day, 10 runs from now and that could completely be different. Like I said, the modelling is struggling to understand exactly what's going on. But this, to me here, folks, looks as if the tropospheric, not stratospheric, the tropospheric polar vortex looks to aim and take a plunge into Europe here. As that area of high pressure retrogrades towards Greenland, that would then open the door potentially to Siberian air heading into western portions of Europe here. So we'll watch and see what happens. It's a long way out. A lot of things can change and likely will change. Very, very briefly, according to Marco Battaglia now, the stratosphere at 10 millibars has warmed 26 Celsius so far above the North Pole in the last couple of days, and more warming is likely. The warming extending down to 30 HPA pressure level. So we are seeing that response of 30 as well as 10 millibars. Notice here, this is the 10 millibar. You can see the warming going from colder than normal to warmer than normal, as you can see here. And then when you go down to 30 millibars, you can see that we're starting to see that response lower down within the stratosphere. So that, of course, it's interesting to see we'll look in a bit more detail at the stratosphere in the next day or so. So that's it for today. Thanks for watching. I do appreciate it. Please like, please share, and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already done so. There's a lot of things to show you here on the channel, so stay tuned. Thanks for watching. See you tomorrow. Bye for now.